And in it, I really recognized how some very small changes could actually lead to some remarkable results. And his thesis actually challenged me, um, uh, or just challenges this notion that many of us might have, that you have to make these big, bold moves if you ever want to create any meaningful change. So today, instead of fighting against that status quo, I'd just like to embrace Clear's thesis. I'm going to present you with some thoughts around this notion of atomic habits, which should enable you to finally break away from that undertow, which has been preventing your firm from reaching its full potential. Now, before I do dive in, just indulge me for a moment. I'm going to just explain why I'm actually here presenting to you today. A little over a year ago, actually, it's now like a year and a half ago, after selling my third company, I decided that this next chapter in my life would be sharing so much of what I've learned over now 4 decades in the AE industry, both as a practicing architect, but also as a software entrepreneur, where our software was really serving over 4,000 AE firms. And so today, as this business coach, I work directly with firm owners, some of their key staff, and I have become really acutely aware how it's so difficult for firms to cross this chasm and find the balance between serving their clients and building a sustainable and a valuable practice. A business that's not just there to serve the owner's lifestyle, but maybe something that can create some lasting value or establish a legacy. If any of you are interested in learning more about how to make your business as elegant as your architecture, I invite you, visit me at thewelldesignedfirm.com. Don't do it now, do it at the end of the session, and I'll leave my little information slide up at the end there. You could sign up for a 30-minute free meeting with me. We just talk about your firm, see if there's any issues in which I could help you achieve your personal and life goals. So my objective today is actually going to be twofold. By the end of this hour, I want you to look inward, think about small things that you can start to do right away that will improve your personal and your professional life. I'm also going to ask you to sign up for a demo to learn about the technology solution offered by today's sponsor, BQE Software, which I know has magnificent tools to allow you to iterate small changes within your firm and can bring you outsized results. And thank you, BQE, for calling on me for today's webinar. So all of us who are in the design profession, I think we can all appreciate this iterative design process where you make a minor modification or some small improvement, and it's going to lead to maybe an even more innovative solution. And I was in school, I was studying architecture when I learned about Daniel Burnham's famous saying, "Make no little plans. They have no magic to stir men's blood, and they will probably not be realized themselves." So with that banner planted in my young skull, I really was dismissing some of I dismissed little things. They are, by definition, they're insignificant, and all the glory was going to go to those people who achieved great things. So everything I was doing was intended to be big. I was not going to escape notice. Now, I also did grow up in that generation that was moved by President Kennedy's words, challenging us to put a man on the moon and bring him back safely to Earth. And not because it's easy, but precisely because it is hard. So I'm from that generation that is educated to believe we can, or at least we should be attempting to accomplish big things. So today we might refer to this as BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goals. And that was a phrase popularized in Jim Collins's book, Built to Last. So for centuries, at least until James Clear's book, we've been glorifying people, glorifying those companies that shoot for the moon or land on the stars, or is it shoot for the stars and land on the moon? I'm never quite sure about that phrase, but going for the gold all the time. So today, as a business coach, and I'm inspired by Atomic Habits, I've come to value the power of subtlety. And if you've ever engaged in sports like just golf or tennis, or you've hired a coach, or you've taken a lesson, you're going to understand the impact of subtlety. This approach is very powerful. you know that a very small change in your stance or your grip can bring instant positive results. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to look at the stance or the grip that you have on your business and some small changes that will create some meaningful results. Again, if any of you have heard me speak before or you read my blog, you will understand I'm a huge proponent of every firm, regardless of their size, developing an annual strategic plan. And one of the critical sections of the plan is stating your goals. What are the goals that your firm is expecting to achieve and by when? So goals are essential, but how you go about achieving them is really what separates a successful firm from a firm that's not hitting the mark. Most serious golfers might dream of winning the Masters tournament. Most competent tennis players would die to win the US Open. They all follow the same rules as their competitors. They have the same goals, but only one of them is going to stand on the podium. So it's not the goal that actually matters. It's how you go about achieving it. So when I work with my clients, I will never question what their personal or their business goals are going to be. My job is to help them achieve them. So no matter your goal, it could be that big, hairy, audacious goal, or maybe it's simple, practical, and modest. Setting the goal is the easy part. And the real takeaway is success isn't just about setting a goal. It's about creating, or more likely implementing, systems that make achieving these goals inevitable. Systems shape our daily activities. They guide us towards success. They give us the consistency and they create the efficiency. So by focusing on building robust systems, that's how you transform your ambition into a structured path forward where progress is not just something that you hope to have, but you've actually designed it, you've engineered it into your life. Now, when you implement systems, what you're really introducing is leverage into the firm. And I apologize for this image on the slide. As you probably noticed, a lot of my slides, I use Midjourney to create these AI images for me. And I had the darndest time trying to get the AI at Midjourney to create this concept of leverage. I'm not quite sure what this device is doing. So leverage, it means using what you have more effectively to achieve a greater outcome. So just like you have a lever might allow you to lift a heavy object, which I was trying to get this slide to do, and do it with minimal effort. Every firm actually has a number of levers. It could be the technology stack that you have implemented in your firm. Maybe it's the skills that your team has developed. Maybe you've cultivated certain partnerships, or your firm has a very distinct reputation that helps differentiate you amongst your peers. And many of you are using those levers for project execution or even project acquisition. But I have to remind you that projects come and go. The firm is what allows you to practice your profession. And if ever there was a project that deserves developing atomic habits, it's the project that you call your firm. I'm going to use a real world example from a firm that I work with, and it's a scenario that's probably going to be familiar to some of you. So my client is a 9-person architectural firm, and they had set a goal to elevate their firm's profile and kind of be recognized as an industry leader within a very specific niche. And despite their ambitions and their qualifications, they just found themselves in a relentless cycle of project deadlines, client demands, constant coordination with consultants and contractors. We all know this is just what happens in our daily routine, right? It's chaos. And that left them with little to no time to engage in important marketing efforts, crafting compelling case studies, or developing some shareable content for social media, maybe could even improve the SEO of their website. These kinds of initiatives, they are vital to draw interest and cement their reputation as authoritative experts. In their case, it was in deep energy retrofit type projects. And time was slipping by as my client continuously deferred their marketing tasks, promising me we're going to get around to it eventually. And then weeks morphed into months. The goal they set out to achieve in their strategic plan was never going to be realized if they continued to operate this way. And I pointed out during one of our bi-monthly meetings, I pointed out to them that they were highly efficient with the processes that they developed for project design and execution. So I prompted them to enact a similarly efficient process that was as effective as when the principal might create a few crude sketches. They're then transformed into a complex BIM model by a junior team member. That's how we traditionally apply leverage when providing our own professional services. You invest a few minutes to initiate a process, but there's others on our team that can develop and refine it. So I asked one of the principals to allocate 30 minutes to create an outline of the very first case study that they would need, which would then be expanded by a junior team member. By the end of the following week, not only was that first case study completed, but it became the centerpiece of a targeted social media campaign that was directing this surge of traffic, which they had created a dedicated landing page on their website. And they provided a little call to action button on the website, and where the visitor could download this PDF case study by providing their name and email. Now, I'm not going to pretend that the entire process of not just writing the case study and making it presentable, but creating the web page, the landing page, and so forth was easy, or certainly not as easy as it sounds. But every coach will understand this notion of small steps. Getting the client off of the couch and into the gym is really step number one. And after a couple of days, when that person starts to see some results, they get to be rewarded. They develop this intrinsic motivation for more. They want another hit of that dopamine. So in this instance, the key leverage was derived from really a not very innovative use of technology. What we did is we implemented calendar blocking as a way to ensure a consistent behavioral change. So notice on this partner's calendar, it's very structured. All the blue items, these are company overhead events. The red items are for marketing events. Orange things are related to active projects. And the gray items are personal items that just might appear during the normal hours of work. But notice how mid-morning and late afternoon are almost always blocked for the active projects. Midday is lunch break. And after that, that's when I really wanted this partner to deal with email. Mornings tend to be either company overhead tasks or marketing tasks, because actually those are the primary responsibilities for this particular individual. And notice that every week we ended up implementing or putting into the calendar 2 recurring 45-minute events. This partner blocks everything out of their life. They do nothing but sit at the desk and sketch out ideas for more case studies. Remember, thought leadership is part of what this firm is needing to prove for their particular expertise and get that out into the world. Now, less than 4% of this person's work week is being blocked for a singular focused task. This disciplined approach, it yielded some pretty remarkable results. So within 2 months, the firm produced and shared 5 comprehensive case studies. They did that through social media. They posted them on their website. And without this strategic allocation of time, facilitated by the simplest of technology uses, calendar blocking, the principal's hectic schedule would have precluded creating a single case study, and that would have left a significant opportunity to engage and expand their potential client base. It would have left it untapped. So this is just one example of, again, simple technology-based system implemented and proven to create some dramatic results with very low effort. And no expense was required because this technology already existed within their firm. So when it comes to your technology, it's not whether you have it at all, it's how you use it. So I'm going to give you 4 examples of leverageable technology systems that are going to yield some amazing results. These are all things that require altering your current habits. The results are actually quite significant, but the time commitment is going to be very small or atomic. First up is, please consider implementing a continuous feedback loop within your teams, not just on the projects and your team's performance, but also with your clients. It could be through regular review meetings, simple and fast client satisfaction surveys, post-project debriefs or surveys. And for a firm that has 10 employees, and let's just say 10 active projects, this would not consume more than 1% of your total team's weekly time. Number two is actually related to, for lack of a better word, your knowledge management system. So within the strategic plan that I talked about earlier, there's something we often call to the operations plan. You must formalize a system for capturing, organizing, and sharing knowledge within the firm. That includes what are our best practices, what's our technical expertise, and let's detail that, design templates, project documentation, case studies. Once again, having this system and incorporating it as a habit in your work week will enhance your firm's collective intelligence and your efficiency. So if every single employee dedicated this might sound to you rather large, but if they dedicated 90 minutes a week, so on average, that's like 18 minutes a day. And they did that just focusing on this knowledge management area. Your firm would actually be amongst the most well-run firms, but you would be consuming less than 4% of your utilization. Now, I don't generally say trust me, but trust me, while it will lower your staff's overall utilization about 4%, it will dramatically increase your firm's realization. If you're not familiar with that term, there's another webinar I did on KPIs and some other ones as well that talk about realization rates. Okay, next up, number 3 is building a habit to working in and on a collaborative work management system. So utilize digital tools that facilitate project management, communication, collaboration amongst all your team members. And this is especially important since their physical location is not always guaranteed any longer, and we're not always working at the same time in the same office. Allows you to do project tracking, resource allocation. I mentioned communication already, and you can do all of that in real time. And that ensures that everyone is aligned and on track. And these kinds of systems, once properly built and implemented, they will require, on average, again, about 90 minutes of your staff's effort every week. And once again, that amounts to about 4% of your firm's weekly effort. And by the way, this time is still utilized time. So they are working on their projects. So those of you who do bill hourly, which sometimes has to happen, that's still billable time, but you're working within this system, the technology that's been implemented in your firm for sharing information about your projects. And finally, the fourth leveraging system is probably the only one I'm going to give you today that smaller firms might be outside of their comfort zone. It's one of those things I mentioned earlier that usually gets abandoned because of the status quo. But if your firm could implement a client relationship management system, a CRM system, it will enhance your client interactions. It'll start from just lead generation right up through project completion and even beyond that. And it ensures that there's a seamless and a personalized client experience by everybody within your team. A proper CRM system, it can automate follow-ups. It keeps track of all of your client communications. What are their preferences? What's the client's history with the firm? It identifies new opportunities for engagement or maybe cross-selling or upselling some of your existing services. Once you have built and implemented a CRM system, it should not require more than a total of 4 hours a week for, again, let's just use that 10-person firm. That is 1% of your available time. And if you're keeping score, if you enact all 4 of these leverage systems, you would be consuming about 10% of your work week to use these, but it will lower your effective utilization rate by 6%. So again, the magic is not in building systems. It's creating habits to work with these systems, to exploit or leverage these tools. I think many of you probably had implemented CAD or BIM software technologies many years ago within your firms. And for a long time, you probably just waffled around with these things, using them and experimenting with them before somebody maybe decided to take the horse by the reins and really flesh it out and create a structure to how you work with this software so that it is leveraged and becomes easier for everybody who touches it. So that's really what I'm asking you to do, but not with technology that is directly related to your deliverables. It's about technology that's related to your firm. So now let's talk about developing some habits. Maybe that might even make any of this happen. So before I do that, we finally get to a poll question. I have only 2 poll questions today. Let's just see if you're still awake as we're approaching maybe the midway point here. So if you'd be so kind, there we go. So this first poll question is, which systems are underutilized in your firm, or would you prioritize these to enhance your firm's efficiency? And it's a multi-select poll question. So if you believe your firm would benefit from improvements in multiple areas, please pick more than one. But understand, change is not going to come overnight. If you think that all of these could use improvement, just pick 1 or 2 that you would like to focus on, like in the next 6 months. So it's client relationship management, knowledge management, project management, which is really collaborative work management. What is it? Your human resources management. Or are you one of the people that all of your systems are wonderfully utilized? And I'm watching the results coming in as I talk over this poll question. And as soon as I show that they slow down, I'm going to share the results with all of us. Great. So we are done. So let's go ahead. Oh, you're sharing the results right now. Okay, so 57% of you really want to deal with the knowledge management. The bulk, that's the bulk of you. It's almost split between the CRM and the project management. Only a quarter of you want to get working on your HR management, and 3% of you say your systems are all. What do they say? Pistons are firing perfectly there. So good for you. Congratulations. And thanks anyway for joining me on that poll. Okay, so let's now look at these 4 laws as laid out by Clear for behavioral change. And as I take you through these 4 laws, you're going to think I'm either totally stupid or maybe that these laws are refreshingly obvious. But as a law, these should be undeniable. It's kind of like gravity or entropy. The sooner you acknowledge that these are laws and that you embrace them in your life, the better off you're going to be. You'll be able to use these laws as leverage. Maybe you're like one of those unassuming jiu-jitsu fighters who can defeat a significantly larger or stronger or heavier opponent out there. So the first law is, again, these might sound obvious to you, but is really to make it obvious. Every morning, it is time to get up, begin your routine, and the habit that you deploy when you start your day ought to speak about your priorities. Now, studies do show us that a frighteningly large percentage of you start your day by groggily reaching over at the nightstand, grabbing your smartphone, looking at all of the unread emails that might have been clogging up your inbox like unwelcome plaque in your veins while you're sleeping. And depending on what you find there on your inbox, you're going to spend your day putting out some various small fires while responding to dozens of people who are tugging at your shirt sleeves for your attention. And then as the sun descends into the horizon at the end of the day, you're going to realize that you spent too much time doing unscheduled things. Things are just out of your control. So the obvious thing is, do not start your day by looking at your email. And if you remember back at the slide where I was showing you the calendar blocking, the principal in that firm did not look at email until, well, it's supposed to be after lunchtime, but lunchtime and afterwards was when email came into the day. Instead of starting your day with email, have a system that provides you with some information as to how your day ought to be spent. And for any of you who are old timers like me, you might remember the good old Filofax, or the generic name was a weekly planner. It was this amazingly effective non-digital tool. And frankly, if somebody ever lost their Filofax, it was far more catastrophic than losing your cell phone or your laptop. There was no backup to these things. So today we have these business dashboards. These are like descendants of these old pen and paper tools. Every time you sit down in your car, you have a dashboard. What is presented has actually been carefully considered data to help you have a successful car ride. And there is no reason that you need to waste time looking in the trunk at all the flotsam and jetsam that's rolling around back there, or peek under the hood, because we have our dashboards. So please don't drive your business without a dashboard. Do not allow that temptation of, the things that are rattling around in the trunk to distract you from your journey. The technology you use should give you control over which items are presented to you on your dashboard. And if you are using software that is displaying too much information, or data that is just hard for you to understand, or data that is irrelevant to your personal role and needs, please look for solutions like that created by our sponsor today that give you the ultimate control over your working environment. Now, our second law is let's make it attractive. Nobody wants to interact with confusing, cluttered, and unessential things. And I can't think of a better audience than what we have here today for people who are innately aware of the fantastic value of aesthetics. When you remove unessential data and unessential tools from your environment, it's going to become immediately more attractive and functional. Too much information can be paralyzing. Too little is going to be ineffective, and you need to find the balance of what is best for you. But again, please make sure you're using technology that's going to put you in control. The third law for behavioral change to succeed is make it easy. If you think about some of your favorite software or technology tools, those that are easy to learn are quickly adopted. And if your firm is using needlessly complex software, you're going to have an impossible time getting people to embrace it and make it a part of their daily habit. And I can tell you that I have seen hundreds upon hundreds of firms suffer with obscenely cumbersome software tools. They complain ad nauseum, but again, it's that status quo that keeps them from making change. Now, here's an example. I cannot think of a single exception in the more than 1,400 firms that I have been engaging with myself over the years. Employees hate filling out their time card. It is a waste of their time. Some firms will forego it completely, thinking it's not needed because they don't bill by the hour, they have fixed fee projects. However, if you can understand every hour of every employee's time, this is the holy grail of your firm's success. What projects are consuming their time? What tasks are they performing? What does that time cost? And this is where, when you know this information and it's presented to you in a way that actually stimulates the neurons in your brain, that's where you go from a firm that's just being a business living hand to mouth to becoming an industry leader. That's where you can start to command the highest fees, you see the greatest profit margins. And I am not going to waste time describing all of the excuses that I've heard about time cards. I think you know all those issues. But when you have great technology, it will make completing a time card effortless. Personally, over the last 6 years, I spend on average less than 2 minutes every single day working on my time card. It's like brushing my teeth. It's a habit. It's easy if your technology can pre-fill your time card with only the projects and only the tasks or activities that you should be working on during that day or that week. It's based on the project schedules and what are your responsibilities. Another common problem is preparing reports. You can use these for business analysis or project status or understanding employee productivity. Most firms do this with spreadsheets and a ridiculous amount of manual effort. However, when you have the right technology, you can have software prepare reports on a schedule. When you've got smart technology, every employee can have any report that they desire automatically created and delivered to them on the day that they need it, at the time of the day that they prefer it. If my calendar is blocked to review project budget reports at 3 p.m. on Thursdays, just imagine how delightful it is to have that report automatically prepared and delivered to my email inbox at 3 p.m. on Thursday. Not only did this effort not require any human effort, the figures are going to be accurate. They're going to be in real time. But imagine that report is still not ready for me because someone in the office had been tasked with gathering the data and then making it presentable. And so it looks like I'm going to have to shift around my schedule because that report was not ready. But that is actually how most of us operate. Or that report is there, but we haven't been doing calendar blocking and we've got other things, and I'm not going to get to look at that for another week. And at that point, it's already obsolete. We have these good intentions, but things get in the way or people will disappoint us. So this technology system, it is not only easy, it's actually obvious, but it also satisfies the very last law for behavioral change, which is to make it satisfying. Habits become sustainable when the person receives satisfaction or positive reinforcement from this new behavior. With any adoption of technology, you should be building in a feedback loop and a reward system. There are countless ways that you can provide some positive reinforcement to your staff when you or your team members are embracing these new behaviors. So earlier I talked about a client who got that hit of dopamine after they saw the impact of having that very first case study drive traffic and interest into their firm. That's really satisfying. But there are these other ways that you can also engage your staff so that the systems that you're implementing are being accepted and it actually can impact their daily and weekly habits. Provide some opportunities for skill development or career advancement. This could include access to training programs, sending people off to conferences and workshops, having mentorship opportunities. These can all be very powerful forms of reinforcement. Offering a flexibility in their work. I think all of us have become aware since COVID that this is a necessary part of what we do, but rewarding people with greater flexibility for actually adopting these good habits is certainly something available to you. Encourage a culture within your firm where your colleagues support and recognize everybody and each of their own efforts. This could be peer-to-peer recognition programs, maybe where one employee nominates another for demonstrating one of these desired behaviors, and really celebrate these achievements. It's incredibly important to provide your employees with some constructive feedback and coaching as they adopt these new behaviors. So have regular feedback sessions, especially for your remote employees. These need to be much more frequent than they used to be when you were in the same physical environment. Help them understand how you see their progress and identify some areas maybe for improvement, but just keep them motivated. Be their coach, be their mentor. Communicate with the staff that if you embrace these new behaviors, it might even lead to some more career advancement opportunities. This could be a very strong motivator for many employees. And just always, as I'm sure you all believe you do, foster a supportive and a positive work environment where every member of the staff is feeling they're valued, they're empowered, and technology does provide a lot of empowerment. And just also encourage people to take some risks to even explore these tools to a greater depth than you might have done them yourselves. These are the kinds of desired behaviors you're going to want. Now, I've very often spoken about the need for a firm owner to reframe what is the purpose of a business. A lot of you might think it's simply a platform where you can satisfy the needs to have the next new design project. But I do believe that your firm, as I mentioned at the front of this today, it is the greatest project you will ever get to work on because you own the asset and you can constantly iterate and approach perfection. So if you are a professional who enjoys innovation, There is no better subject than your own firm to express that urge. And I can think of no better tool than technology to enhance our ability to innovate within our firms. You're going to be amazed at what can happen to a business's health when you encourage this culture that embraces experimentation and learning. So in my business and for every one of our clients, I block 2 hours every week. We focus on implementing innovation within the company, innovation that's adding value to the business, not adding value just to some sort of single project. When your firm can shift from becoming into becoming a business innovator, you're going to be able to build a substantial amount of value that will reap these rewards into the future on many fronts, from client acquisition to employee retention to project execution, and just leading to overall profitability. Now, throughout the webinar, I have been illustrating my points by using today's sponsor, BQE Software's cloud platform. It's called BQE Core. If anyone out there is not using Core, I'm going to ask you now, and you can go ahead and launch the poll question and leave it up for a while. Please ask for a demo of Core. I can promise you that the time that you spend looking at BQE Core, it's going to be well spent. Over the past 4 decades, I've learned that firms that implement smart technologies like this, they're not only high performing, but they use the time and the money that they save to invest in building better firm cultures. They can pay their staff higher salaries, which will attract better employees and, of course, better clients. I will ask you, though, please do your homework. Research the other software solutions that are out there. But if you're not using a firm or project management program, or even if you're using one of the other systems that are out in the market today, I would still encourage you, please get a demo of BQE Core, and you can see the difference. You might learn maybe you're very happy with the tools you have, or you might learn, wow, here's a company that's building and building and building better tools for the AE industry. And fortunately for you, there's only about 4 to 6 systems on the market that are truly purpose-built for our industry. So you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your firm to look into these systems. And if you're just using spreadsheets out there, please pick 3 systems that you're going to evaluate for your firm, get a demo of all 3 systems, ask them the hard questions, make sure they understand your firm's needs, because it's going to be a big commitment on your part to implement something like this. And you're going to have to build that behavioral change to make it really successful. But once they're in, as I mentioned at the beginning, you've implemented them, you can develop the right habits around them, about using them, you will be rewarded. So with that, we'll keep the poll question up. Courtney, I think you're here on the call as well. If we have some questions, I'd love to entertain them with the remaining time we have.